Hi, I am not inside my tent. I am currently upstate in my Endicott apartment with my son. He has graduation tomorrow, so today I am just it's 8:20 in the evening and I think I just need to talk. So this is under Psych Soup because I love Psych Soup. My name is Anna Imagination. I'm with the Healing Garden and so I have been on this massive revamp of my life since 2020. It really started in 2015. As I jumped into healing myself and taking on my healing journey. And the first 5 years of that was traditional healing methods where I went to talk therapy. And that's when I discovered it was horribly inadequate. So I went ahead and basically poured my life and attention into my program to supplement my horribly inadequate talk therapy because I got there and my traumas were this big and they're like, just talk about it. And I'm like, really? And I found out that the more I talked about it, the more miserable it made me. And so I'm huge on trauma dumping and emotional flooding. They're not healthy. And I'm a theoretical learner. It's like, why do you want me to talk about it? What's the goal? What's the purpose? And it took about 4 years before I really caught on the process. And I was very upset with my therapist because I was like, why didn't you just tell me that the whole point of this was X? That way, on day one, we could have just done X. And this is where I really clash. I and a lot of people who have left the psychology field have basically stood up against what's the common practice in psychology because there's a lot of little things, basically dirty business like that goes on. And one of the core beliefs in psychology is that if you want a person to believe they can form their own perspective, then they need to make their own perspective. Now, there is truth to that, absolutely. However, that's assuming a cookie cutter kind of perspective. That's assuming that everybody learns that way. And there's a lot this practice is carried over into addiction therapies where we have to let them hit rock bottom before they pull themselves up again. That's not the truth. And then there's also the belief that if an addict doesn't hit rock bottom, and if you don't completely abandon an addict and they don't hit rock bottom, then the chances of them relapsing are more likely. Again, not everyone's the same. Maybe that works for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. That's assuming that everybody is the same learning style. And I'm not. I am very much a theoretical learner. I have to understand the why and the how. The best way to explain theoretical learner is if you give me a word and tell me the definition, I'm not going to remember it. In order for me to remember the definition of a word, I have to look up the etymology of the word. I have to study the root word, where it comes from, which language it evolved, how it evolved, the original meaning, and why. Then I can understand the meaning of the word and apply it to my memory because I'm a theoretical learner. So a lot of the work that I do is very much theoretical learning based, which is why it works so well for me, which is why other people come into the program and they're like, oh my God, this makes perfect sense. Now, my theory is as long as the epiphany stage of learning is reached, it doesn't matter if someone gave you the information or if you read it in a book on your own, as long as you have the epiphany slash enlightenment moment of, oh my God, that eureka. It's that shock and surprise that immediately tells you new belief has been entered into the system. The cognitive processing center is now ready to, well, the cognitive core is now ready to process the new belief and you can shift perspective. So long as the eureka moment is received, then the processing will work. So you don't need to hit rock bottom. You don't need to figure this out for yourself. It's just as effective if someone sits down and tells you, in some cases. This is, again, not a cookie cutter type of learning. For some people, traditional therapy works just great. For a lot of people out there, there's a lot of people who require theoretical learning. So this is where I step in and I go, okay, here's a different way of doing things. And I also had a huge issue with trust where I had followed the instructions of my therapist this whole time, only to realize that the whole point of talk therapy was to show you, me in that case, that I could form my own perspective. But I didn't know that that's what I was doing. I didn't understand what the purpose was. And they took a really long way around to get to that point. And I had it out with my therapist, like, why didn't you just tell me? Like, when I figured it out, I sat her down and I went into therapy mad that day. And I'm like, why didn't you just tell me that this was the purpose? I had to go research this crap and figure out the theory of what we're doing in all of my psych studies. And she did a whole, yes, because the insurance company doesn't want us to do it that way because we've been regimented to do it this way. And I'm going, not being honest with people and direct does not do a lot for our trust. And furthermore, you're still getting the eureka moment. It doesn't matter if you tell me directly or if I figure it out on my own. The eureka moment is still happening. And I have never relapsed. So their theory that, oh, if they don't come up with their own perspectives and they don't figure their problem out for themselves, then they're going to relapse is bullshit, in my opinion. And not just my opinion, like 50% of the people who start taking psych reach the same conclusion I do. And then they bail on their psych degrees or they bail on their profession altogether because they have an ethical problem with the way psychology is run. So, all of that aside, there's my psych soup. So, it brings me down to the whole concept of this is the purpose of psychology. This is the purpose of therapy and talk therapy. So, I was several years into it and it was 2019. I had started my therapy in 2015 and I was doing really well. Like I was in a happy place. I wasn't growing, but I was healed. And I finally and that's what it was. It was healing, 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 and then I plateaued. And when I hit that plateau, everything was pretty balanced. Now, this is while I was living with a narcissistic husband. So things felt good because they felt better, but they were still pretty shitty. They were really, really shitty. But in perspective of how bad they were versus how good I was doing, I thought I was like living the life. And then it's like I had a shift in 2019 where it brought into question my sexuality. It brought into question my purpose in life. I wanted to be something better. I wanted to do more. I wanted to heal. And it was March of 2020. It was when lockdown happened and all my life I'd been a shut-in, like, for 20 years, and suddenly I was being a shut-in against my will. It was all about the choice. Like, I was fine being a shut-in until the government told me I had to be a shut-in. Then it was like, I'm getting out of here." So, when COVID happened and I became a mandated shut-in, it turned the tables on me, and suddenly it was, "No, I gotta get out and socialize." But more importantly, my healing had reached a point where I no longer wanted to be like contained. I wanted to go out and socialize. And I had this severe like intuition, my intuition. Basically, it was like my vibrational frequency woke up in 2019, and it really did. I blame it on the chakra stones that I purchased. Like I had bought chakra stones for the first time in my life. I had them in my hands, and it was a game changer for me. It was like, whoa. It's like it turned on my intuition and it magnified it. And I had this severe urge to go to New York City. So it was right after my husband threw me out in August, and I ended up doing Walkabout, where I literally backpacked through Manhattan for a year. So very hippie lifestyle. It was absolutely liberating, and it was definitely me kicking up my game for an entire. Like here was level 5 of my healing, and then it just took it up to here. I was on a whole nother different level. It was very empowering. I learned a lot about what I could do. I pushed myself. I learned a lot about what I was capable of doing. And then I went on this massive shopping spree because I had to rebuy everything because my husband took everything. So I had to rebuild this whole life from scratch. And when I did that, it was this massive step back from everything, just realizing exactly what my own strength and power was. And I think that's really what I'm here to talk about is because this has escalated that moment, realizing my own strength and power. And these are the stages of healing. This is what it looks like. There's the, oh, I'm really messed up and I'm broken. And then there's the discouraging, I'm never going to get better. This is bullshit. I'm wasting my time. And then you start to really put your all into your healing. That would be around 6 months in, where you realize, all right, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to do it and you push yourself through the work, you put yourself through the healing, and you start going through it all. And what I was doing then that I was not aware of was I was systematically sorting through my cognitive core, locating all of these toxic beliefs. And it would take me 8 years total of locating these toxic beliefs and removing them. And I'm still removing them. One of my huge toxic beliefs that I removed about 2 weeks ago was the realization and finally the acceptance that my family does not care about me. Not now, my children do. Two of my three children do. But I was subjected to some serious trauma, some serious abuse, and everybody in my family turned away, ignored it, put up blinders, made excuses for my abuser, justifying why I deserved the beatings and the rapes that I got. And everyone looked the other way. So and that was a reality that I had with me for 40 years. And it wasn't until I finally processed it of what does that mean when your father and your grandparents and your aunts and your uncles and your cousins all know what's happening to you and no one stops. It's because and everyone knew what was being done to me. And it was finally the logical argument. This is where formal argument, dialectical behavior therapy was in my cognitive core, where one part of my subconscious was going, you know what this means. Make the logical conclusion. And another part of my brain, my subconsciousness, was literally like blinding me, going, no, don't look at that. It's going to hurt too much. And I finally sat down with my subconsciousness and said, look, I can handle this, but it's time I look at the truth. What is it? And I was finally able to complete the logical argument of if everybody knew, and if everybody did nothing, therefore everybody didn't care. They prioritized my brother's freedom to beat me more than my safety and security. Therefore, in conclusion, my family didn't care about me. They didn't. They don't. And it went from having this massive family to cutting them all out, going, if you didn't care about me. And I watched them back in February of 2023. This is 6 months ago. My brothers had my son, and it was supposed to be a 2 week vacation. And it turned into a 6 month event where they put him through the same treatment that I was put through where he was enslaved. They wouldn't let him do ABC. It was a narcissist dictatorship of you're going to live according to my rules and I'm going to starve you to teach you a lesson. And they did. They locked him out of the fridge. And when I said to them, you need to send my son home so he can eat, go to school, live a life, and they have fought me on that to the point where I had to get my ass up here 3 hours away and literally extract him from his abusive situation. Now he's fine now. He's graduated from high school. That's why I'm here, is because tomorrow he has graduation. But it was a wake-up call to see that all of the narcissists that I had suspected were it was all back. It was amazing to see the narcissists in my brothers and my father go dormant. Like I watched them abuse me and then they went dormant for like 20 years. And then they had access to my son and I watched their narcissism all turn back on again. It was extraordinary. And it made me realize that for a narcissist, I am a firm believer of this now. A narcissist is actually triggered by children. I am very certain that the trigger point for a narcissist is children because it's when a narcissist is a child is when they're being abused by a narcissist. So when they're getting exposed to children, when they're around children, it turns on that memory inside of them and they're like, "Oh," and that programming that was conditioned into them kicks in and they start behaving like narcissists themselves. Because as soon as I graduated, as soon as the youngest child in my family, my youngest brother, got away from my father went from being a vulnerable narcissist to dormant and he was a wonderful man. This is oh, he acts so nice. And I get this so much. I cannot tell you how many of my clients have reported this. But then their grandchildren will come along and their narcissism will turn right back up again. And they're like, I don't understand it. It's because I suspect, I hypothesize that the narcissist trigger is a child. So, that all being said, what's interesting was I basically went on this walkabout. I empowered myself, I tested myself, and I learned all the things that I could do. And then I fell in love with somebody and I settled down. And I really, really settled and embraced this whole this is me cramming myself back into this boxed ideal of what a relationship should be, what everyone tells me a relationship should be. It was nuclear. He gave me a wonderful location for me to heal. I healed. It did him a lot of trauma and damage. And I was only halfway through. Now at this point, I was like 7 years, 6 years into my healing. I was not done yet. Excuse me. So I was down to like the last and I didn't realize it was 2022. It was last year. And we basically pushed pause on the relationship and we separated ways. And I poured everything that I had into my healing. I mean, I cranked it up a whole nother level. I leveled up, and that's it. Is I cranked up so much with my healing, and that's when I created the cognitive core processing. That's when I realized limiting beliefs is the core to this big problem, and that's when I really started to fish out the last of my limiting beliefs, and it was this realization that every one of us basically has a vibrational frequency, their own note inside of them that they all vibrate, that they all live by. And when you are tuned into your own vibrational frequency, you realize how much of your life actually doesn't fit into your frequency. So you go through this period where you end up cutting out everything that doesn't match up to your frequency. And yeah, this can mean you lose spouses, it can mean you lose lovers, partners, friendships, family members, everything, your job. And that's what I ended up doing is I tuned into my vibrational frequency. I figured out who I am at my core and then I looked at my life and went, wow, I'm X and everybody else around me is a Q. And this doesn't fit me anymore. And I started some mantra work, which is I release what no longer serves me. And it was extraordinary to watch everything just, I lost all of my friends. Again, I lost my boyfriend, I lost my family again. Everything that I had built up, I lost again. So this was me re-losing everything for a second time in 3 years. And this time though I was living in New York City and I had my 15-year-old daughter and I have my 19-year-old son and that's pretty much it. And I still have my very important person, my VIP, but we're taking a break. We're kind of so I'm just looking at all of this, and then my son tells me his graduation is tomorrow, so I make arrangements to come from New York City upstate. It's a 3-hour drive, and I'm on the bus, and as I'm on the bus, I'm thinking, "Oh, this is going to be wonderful. I'm going to have all of my things. I'm going to have my couch. I'm going to have my awesome bed. I have a Tempur-Pedic. Like I dumped $6,000 into my bed. I love my bed." So I had all these ideas in my head that I'm going to be coming home to this apartment upstate and I'm going to feel comfortable. And I was looking forward to this comfort. Only I got here this afternoon and I felt like I was completely detached from all of my possessions. I was completely detached from the location and the culture's different here. My mom and my stepfather were there and my stepfather stepped out to go get a pizza. I had made it clear to them that I like to be called Anna and I'm a vegetarian. He brought back a pepperoni pizza with chicken wings and he insisted on calling me Angela. And that was just like jarring in a place where I already am not feeling comfortable. So we sit down and I'm I've lost a lot of weight in a very short period of time because I stepped into basically the a monk lifestyle for the last 8 months. Literally, I stepped into the way of the Buddha because I desired knowledge and I wanted to know what enlightenment was. I wanted to know what the Buddha saw. So, and I knew that you cannot achieve certain knowledge without ultimate suffering. So I did. I stepped into it and I embraced it. And that included starving myself at times because when it came to making choices, it was detaching yourself from complete material possessions. And I have lived in New York City without a job for a year. And it was a steadfast refusal to be bullied by money. It was a steadfast refusal to adhere to the man, you know? And a lot of people couldn't do what I did. A lot of people hear about what I did and go, whoa, it was purely a spiritual journey that I did to myself on purpose. And yeah, I lost 15 pounds in a very short period of time because I was embracing this very spiritual path. And I very much did walk away. I walked away with so much. It was extraordinary, the perspective that I gained from this experience. So I I'm looking forward to reuniting with this little apartment of mine, and instead I walked in and everything felt cold. Everything felt unfamiliar. And that really was it. I Everything was unfamiliar. I was so detached from material possessions. I was so detached from my own possessions that there was no warmth. There was no association when I walked into the apartment. I was surrounded in a culture that I hated. I was surrounded with people who I associated with abuse. And my mother, I love her dearly, and she is one of the few people left who supports me. However, she's very much a submissive in that, well, I'm in upstate. Here, women are second-class citizens. Your job is to shut up, be quiet, obey, support the man. And if you step outside of that, you get abused. So I sat down and my stepfather presents me with meat pizza and meat, and I pick off the pizza and I eat the pizza anyway, which I'm struggling with. And then, and there's no respect. Like, he asks if I want chicken. And I look at him and I said, I'm a vegetarian. And which I've told them repeatedly. And there's a thing where I grew up. There's a thing in this area where if people don't like it, they pretend they don't hear you and they do not make an effort to memorize. They literally do not make an effort. So when I say, "Call me Anna," they won't put that to their memory because they don't validate it as having any kind of importance. By the way, they're all narcissists. So I'm in the middle of all this crap, and I get through half a pizza when my father decides this is the time to start lecturing me on my life choices. And I'm 43 years old. I live on my own in New York City, and he's going off about my life choices and how I know you love that city, but it's really high time you come home. I didn't even let him finish the sentence. I stopped him there and I said, I have spent every day of my life being told by everybody what they think my business should be. Everybody has told me how they think I should love, where who I think they think I should marry, what kind of a husband I should have, what kind of a job I should have, where I should live, how many children I should have. I have literally spent the first 40 years of my life tailoring my life to accommodate the desires of my father, my brothers, my stepfather, two owners, and two husbands. And it finally hit me in 2020 where I said, enough. I'm going to do what I want to my own frequency. And I stopped him there and said, I don't want to hear it. There is nothing you're going to say to me that I haven't heard and you're wrong. I know what I need. I know what's best for me. And this is while I'm upset because I just rode in a bus for 4 hours. I'm not being comforted by these positions anymore. I'm in very uncomfortable territory, and I'm being attacked by my stepfather as he tells me how much of a disappointment I am. So I stop him and I'm like, no, no, you keep your shit off of me. And he ignored me, which is because I'm a woman here. This is what we do up here. Women don't speak. And if you speak, you're ignored. So he ignored me and he just continued going. And I blew up. I told him how I was raped last month. I told him how my boyfriend and I had a fight 5 days ago and we haven't communicated since. And he got up and he left. He just said no. And that's it. If a woman speaks around this area, the man will walk away like, "How dare you talk?" And that's what I was raised in. So he left and I just blew up at my mom. My mom took it. My mom listened and she comforted and she said all the right things. But I'm like, I have spent every day of my life listening to what everyone else thinks about me. And it was this real wonderful liberating feeling of me putting down this standard and this gauntlet saying, you don't get to tell me what's anymore. And that really is it. Is there's a lot of, and I was just explaining this to my son, where there is, you have your own frequency. You have your own vibrational frequency. And once you find your vibrational frequency, it's like you realize you are the one chord, the first note, the primary note of a song. And now it's your job to go through life and figure out what matches your song, what belongs in your song, and what doesn't. Which is why when we meet somebody or we see something and it rubs us the wrong way and it doesn't feel good because it's not harmonic to our song. So it's jarring and we go, that's just not for me because it's not part of my song. And I realize this. I very much have realized this now. And I'm just, yeah, it's really liberating. And I'm at this stage where I'm learning how to be distant and isolated with somebody I love, which I've never done before. It's my first time away from the man I love. It's 5 days now, and we're just taking respective space from each other and taking the time we need. And it's different. It's really different. And I'm using the opportunity to grow and to teach myself that I have this strength and patience and endurance inside of me. And I've made some decisions about how I love. And it really rolled into this whole concept that you can get into, basically it's there's a style of love and we all have our own style of love. And then there's the Disneytized standard, this is the way love looks, which has been crammed down every girl's throat since the 1950s on what love is supposed to look like. And it doesn't work for me because it doesn't match my frequency. And I have a very unique style of love. But then people see the way I love and they don't understand it because it doesn't match to their frequency. So then they get aggressive, like, why are you loving this way? This is what you should be. You should be married to this kind of guy and you should be interested in this kind of guy and he should be this tall and he should be this wealthy. And I'm going, what the fuck? Just because I'm pretty doesn't mean that this guy you're describing is good for me. And it's been something, honestly, it's downright offensive. It's really offensive because there's this stereotype out there that if a girl is a certain attractive level, there's this expectation that her partner has to be just as attractive, tall, dashing, dark, handsome, that kind of garbage. The thing is, I had a husband like that, and he was a grandiose narcissistic piece of shit who literally tortured my children as a means to control me. So I've been with that kind of a guy, and that's not the kind of guy I want. And yeah, you can get tall, dark, and handsome and not have them be a narcissist, but now I have that association in my head. And I have this other guy. I'm absolutely head over heels for him. I adore him to pieces. I love him. He just loves differently. And I don't care. He doesn't have to love me the way I love him. He doesn't have to love me at all. That's not how I love. I love very differently. I have a very different, very, very different kind of loving style. But I'll have friends come up to me and shame me and give me their ideal. And just like my stepfather telling me that I need to match their expectations. And I'm at a point at 43 years old where I am all done hearing everyone else's expectations. And I think that's really it is you get to a point in your trauma healing where you don't give a shit what the expectations of other people are. You just got to know, you just got to do what you need to do for you. And I think that's really where I'm at in life. And I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure out like what is good for me. I know what kind of a career I want now. I'm doing it. I'm very happy with my career. And I need to take care of my income and I need to take care of I needed to take care of my romance life, but now I don't need to do that anymore because I realized there is this societal expectation, especially on women, of if you aren't married by a certain age, then you're an old hag. If you are married by a certain age, then you're a crazy cat lady. If you're not married by a certain age, then it's just downhill from here and you can expect to be an old crone for the rest of your life. So there's this massive, and if you're attractive, if you're a certain level of attraction, then there's a lot of pressure on you to make sure you are breeding with somebody. And then there was this period where I went through. This is when I was very much in love with the man of my life, the love of my life, and everyone was telling me that I needed to find somebody else. But I was happy, and I am happy loving him. I don't have to be with him, I'm just happy loving him. And I had a lot of people giving me their 2 cents and their expectations, like, "You're beautiful, you should have, like, 20 different guys that you're, like, dating and figuring out which one, and you should have a husband who's a millionaire," and it's offensive. And I ended up breaking down with one of these persons. She attacked me verbally at a public party, insisting that I was weak because I loved somebody the way I loved them. And it was just downright offensive. She kept petting me like I was a child. It was very, very condescending. And that's just it, is I'm at a point where I'm cutting people out of my life. I'm finding out who's not in my frequency and I'm dropping them like hot stones going, "Look, you don't vibe with me." And that's that we you used to say it as kids and we got away from it, but it really does mean a lot. You don't vibe with me. It just doesn't vibe with me. And what that means is your vibrational frequency doesn't match mine. Like kid slang uses it all the time. Teenagers use this. You don't vibe with me. We're just not vibing. That's what it means. And, you know, I am at a very difficult time right now because I've lost so much and I just had a trauma occur last month and it came at a time when I'm trying to get this company off the ground and I'm putting things together and I'm still trying to figure out my way. And I'm a newborn baby when it comes to knowing my frequency and understanding what's good for me. And part of that is also limiting and not allowing what other people say about you. Making sure that there's a boundary of, hey, you're not allowed to talk to me like that. Hey, you're not allowed to interfere with me like that. And setting that boundary and putting it in place and then enforcing it. And that's what using your voice is, which is not popular here, which is even more reason why I'm going, yeah, I really can't be here right now. So I don't know. Maybe I just needed to talk and just sort out all of these thoughts. And which is why I call it psych soup, is because I just need to talk and just blurt it all out. And it really doesn't belong in shifting perspectives. And on a talk seems to be more, let's talk about this thing for 15 minutes while we analyze something. But really, I need a place where I can just randomly wander around with points. But it was a good experience for me coming in here and realizing that I'm done with Endicott. I'm done with Binghamton. I'm done with Central New York. I have officially turned over to New York City full time so that now when I'm here, it doesn't feel anything. Like it's just I'm very disconnected from it. So I don't know. I feel like I still have these I can feel it. It's like I've got these toxic beliefs still sitting in my brain. And today more surfaced. And that's it, is you get rid of one and you think, oh good, that really cleared it out. And you feel the perspective shift, but then more surface. And it's not that they surfaced, it's that they got they shook loose. And I'm going to find them. I'm going to figure out where the inconsistency is and I'm going to address them. And then another one is going to shift up in its place. And eventually I'll have eliminated all of these toxic beliefs. And that's really what I need to talk a lot on is the beliefs. I talk about them a lot when I'm discussing cognitive core and the processing of the cognitive core. When you get a belief in, and really like what is a belief? How do you locate it? How do you know you have a toxic belief? And that's where you use emotions to determine you have a problem. This is really what emotions are for. This is it right here. Emotions are basically the red flags that tell you when you have a toxic belief inside of you. So you can use a red flag. You can use the emotion confusion that tells you that, or inconsistency, confusion, inconsistency, lack of motivation. Those three things are caused by a belief that is in your system that is contradicting another belief. And as a result, you are either unable to form a perspective, that is confusion, or you end up having two different contradicting perspectives, and you end up trying to do both at the same time, and that's your inconsistency. So I had that a lot where, for instance, I had the belief of this is how Anna loves. This is how I love. It's unconventional. It's really different, but it's how I love. And I had my belief, my ethics, my actions, my voice to my perspective. But then I had everybody else's opinion, everybody else's belief, and it contradicted my belief. And what ended up happening was that formed a different conclusion. That so I had 2 conclusions, 2 perspectives inside of me, and I would toggle between both perspectives. I would wake up one morning and feel fine and feel solid, going, "Yes, I love him. Everything's fantastic. I know who I am. I know who he is. I know where my relationship is. I know in where everything is in relationship to it." And then I would have a thought that would basically draw on the other perspective and the other line of belief. And everything would shift. My whole mood, my whole behavior would shift to align with that perspective. So it's like, here's the ethic and here's the two beliefs, and they lead to their own. And I could be here, and then something could shift. I could have a thought, I could have a trigger, and I would immediately jump ship and go on the other side. And as a result, it looked like I was moody. It looked like I was bipolar. It looked inconsistent. And I would have this patriarchy definition of love, Disneytized, fit in the box. And then I would have my own definition of love. And when I followed my own authentic definition, everything was fine. I felt fantastic. I was happy. I was relaxed. I was secure. I was confident. But then I would switch over to this patriarchy definition. A trigger would go off and I would switch modes and I would feel insecure. I would feel scared. I would feel threatened. I would feel jealousy. And then this side of me would be going, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And at the time when I had my alters and my split personality, that really amplified it because then I had three different people in my brain all pulling me in different directions. So when I got rid of the alters, I still had one toxic belief parallel to my own belief. And as a result, I would toggle between them. So about 3 or 4 days ago, I said, okay, I am closing the door on this one. This one needs to just go away completely because I can't keep trying to align to it because I have to align to my frequency. And my frequency is this is my style of loving somebody. This is how I love. And it's different and it's very, very, very unique. So I have a lot of people coming and looking at it going, it doesn't make sense to me. Well, it's not your vibrational frequency. It's not going to make sense to you because you have all of your own patriarchal things. And that's where people come along with their patriarchy expectations and they throw them at me. And I'm going, look, that is a patriarchy expectation and it doesn't work for me. So, and if it works for you, great. But if it doesn't work for you, or if it doesn't work, just keep it away from me because that's not good for me. And when I did that, it really like it closed this door, and I was able to finally just close this door and burn it and destroy it and go, I never again have to deal with that. And now I'm consistently on this belief, my authentic vibrational frequency that leads to my own conclusion. Yeah, and it feels good. It feels different. And now I'm sitting here thinking on the other stuff going, it was just it was a very challenging day today. It was a very eye-opening day. And I think that's it really is I have this pressing get income, get a job. And my frequency is going, when you get a job, that's going to hurt you because you're going to have to conform to that frequency. And that one causes you significant mental health and pain. You're only going to be able to keep it up for 3 to 6 months before you quit. But if I stick with a garden, then I'm on my vibrational frequency. But the garden doesn't guarantee me an income yet. And now I'm split between these two options of going the easy way, but it's not easy because it's going to require that I step into the patriarchy, which is going to jar and contradict and run against my vibrational frequency. And deep down, I don't want to do that because that really does cause me a lot of mental pain, which means my only option is to make the garden work. So it feels good being able to sit down and just name these things. Yeah. Yeah, it really does. I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. I've I'm going to try and close it out here. Maybe I have more to say. I have not taken responsibility for my words, and that's a problem. I'm not as careful with my words as I should be. When I write, when I'm working, I'm very responsible with my words. But when I'm interacting with people I love, I don't feel like I'm being responsible for the words that come out of my mouth. And my words are very powerful. When I speak, it's like everyone's frequency is tuned into a forte. Some people are really good with money. Some people are really good with budgeting. Some people are really good with articulation. Some people are really good with writing. Some people are really good with listening. And I am really good with talking and with writing. That's my forte. That's my witch power. And I've not been responsible with my skills. And as a result, I have said some things that I deeply regret, that I did not mean because they were toggling. The reason really doesn't matter anymore. And that's the thing with wisdom is the more wise you get, the more you can stomach your own excuses. There really is no more excuse. I know better. I'm aware of it now. So yeah, it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to process. I have two wonderful ladies working with me on helping my mindset so I can get my garden in a place where I can actually produce money and quickly because even the sirens here don't sound the same as they do in New York City. There is a frequency in the city, and I'm very much matched up to that frequency now. And that's it. With being isolated, you spend a lot of time alone, and that allows you to align to your own frequency without any influence. It's like the more alone you are, the more time you have to really focus in on your vibrational frequency so you can go, oh, that's who I am. And that's what I feel like I've done is I've just tuned right into myself and I can feel myself right down to my bones. I know who I am now. I'm different and I'm tired of growing. Maybe that's it. Is I just need to go to bed and enjoy my bed and sleep. Maybe that's what I need tonight. Is my $5,000, $6,000 bed. My I was raped in my sleep for 5 years, and it taught me that I don't sleep next to people, not even my husband's. I wanted my own bedroom, and they would insist, and then I would end up kicking them in the middle of the night and having night terrors. So 90% of the time, I would sleep on the floor so that I wouldn't be triggered. My imp, my current, my the love of my life, is actually the only man who I can sleep next to and it not trigger me. And that's just a scar of mine that I'm never going to be able to get over is I can't sleep next to people. I can't do sleepovers where everyone's in the same room. Can't do it. I can sleep next to my imp, and that is it. And when you're dating somebody and you have to explain that to them, it's not a pleasant conversation. I'm all done with dating. I'm just done with it. No, never again. No, I have the love of my life. I have who I have, and it makes me very happy. And he doesn't have to love me back, and that's okay. Oh, I know he loves me. But when you're alone, you really get this place of just, oh, there I am. And you really realize where your center is. So that when other people come around you, you know when somebody is in your space and you know when you're not quite acting true to yourself. But you can't know that until you spend a lot of time alone. So I'm here until Tuesday, and there's just a lot of trying to figure out myself. Yeah, I think I just need some alone time. So, as far as the garden goes, I have my center hub, which is the Facebook group or the Facebook page. And then I have like classrooms that I divvy out on the sides. I have lots of classrooms. And right now I have Shadow Work 101. That is a free course. And if you want any instruction at all on how shadow works, it's amazing. Shadow work is amazing. So um, DM me, message me here, and I will send you the link. If you join my Facebook group, which is just Anna's Healing Garden on Facebook, I will send you an invite. Every time I get a large group of people, I send out in fresh invites to make sure everyone gets the invite to shadow work. That way you can join the group, or you can just Google it, I guess, Shadow Work 101, and it shows Healing Garden in the title. So you know it's us. And I'm finishing up with part one now. There's three parts. And part one is understanding how the subconscious works and all the parts of it. And then part two, I walk you through, okay, now we're going to start kicking down doors and we're going to start taking out the skeletons in the closet and fighting demons and comforting the child that's inside. And then part three is administering the self care and aligning everything and making sure that basically you're removing the toxic beliefs so that your perspective it's literally like I've done this before in videos where you remove the toxic belief, this shifts and the perspective shifts. A belief, I'm going to say this because this is it. A belief is the udder that directs and steers the perspective. And that's it. That's it right there. Is a belief is very much the udder. And when you have multiple udders, you're going to go in different directions, which is your inconsistency, your confusion, your your lack of motivation. That's your fight or flight fawn flop, where people will have contradicting emotions and then they'll try and do both. Then there's people who get two contradicting emotions, two contradicting beliefs, and they'll choose one and it will gyrate and just not feel good. And then there's some people who will get two conflicting beliefs and they'll completely shut down, which is what unmotivation is, having a lack of motivation. That's what it is. So, yeah, I really need to do a video just on what beliefs are and how they work, where they come from, how to identify when you have a false belief. And I know what this is. This is me just taking in new perspectives, a lot of them all at one time. And it's causing a lot of shifts. So right now I feel unstable. I need self soothing. I'm an avoidant, so I need to self soothe. And when I do self caring and self soothe, I'm going to calm down my Jerry and that will make me feel better. So I just need to do some self care. I think that's what I need to do, some self care, because right now I'm very unstable. So, yes, I'm going to let you go here. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been Psych Soup. And I will definitely be speaking to you tomorrow morning, first thing. I'm going to do a lot of videos while I'm here in Endicott because I love doing videos. And I'm not in a tent. I'm actually on my couch, and that's my painting. And I miss my gardens. May the kindest of words always find you. All of the links are located below. Find me at annashealinggarden.org. This has been Psych Soup with Anna Imagination. Namaste.